Hello, my name is Bosker Popovic. I am an energy healing coach, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the stress and, more importantly, on the importance of knowing how to release the negative energy from your bioenergy field, whilst at the same time to replenish that negative energy or cleanse the negative energy through your connection with the Mother Earth back into your bioenergy field so that you're always feeling recharged. So let's start from the beginning. This is the third video in a series of 5 that I'm going to exclusively talk about the stress and how it actually correlates with the energy and why energy plays the key role in you controlling all the aspects of stress and its dominance over your physical body. Now, this is very important because your physical body is literally your anchor in this reality. And unless you learn how to relate more amicably to your body, unfortunately, at some point, you are going to suffer the unwanted consequences in the likes of illnesses or any other forms of dysfunctions due to the fact that no proper care was given in the earlier parts of your life. And for that reason, it is very important to be mindful that everything you do is recorded in your sub-cellular structure throughout your life. And it really means everything you do. For instance, if you're a runner, you need to be mindful that you need to properly look after your body in every possible way because you're causing a lot of stresses, a lot of damages, physical damage to the body, which when you're young, you're not going to experience. But all that compounds, and when you hit your late 40s, early 50s, then you're starting to feel the difference in your physical ability. And then as you go on in your life, then that sort of situation, unfortunately, gets worse. The same applies if you live a sedentary life, if you are abusing alcohol or any other chemicals or anything that is not in moderation. The fact is that ideal scenario is to live the life in moderation of everything. So it means you're not sedentary, you're not going overly or excessively in terms of your physical exertion, you're not really pushing yourself mentally beyond to what you can take, so that you have sleepless nights, you're literally losing ability to cognitively relate to yourself because of the excessive emotional and intellectual exertions. And the common factor that literally links all that, believe it or not, in some form or shape, is so-called stressful response. Now, what that really means is basically it's coming from your earlier parts of your life. It's related maybe to your childhood and some sort of hidden or kind of like a known to you emotional traumas that came from something that either happened once or several times in a row, and that kind of like embedded in your subcellular structure and caused you to do something in excess of, as opposed to living a balanced life. Now, we all have that. And maybe when you listen to this, you say to yourself, what is this guy talking about? Well, I cannot remember anything. Of course, we cannot consciously remember everything. But at the subconscious level, everything is recorded. Everything. And we can only become aware of that through what we do and what we don't do, what annoys us, what elates us, and what is our, how can I say, the predominant way of being on a daily basis. Now, all that is related in some form or shape, as I said earlier, to some kind of stressful response, which usually is hidden in some form of an emotional dysfunction that took place at some part of your life, which was probably very brief, but nevertheless, it was very strong. You probably have buried it out in order not to go through that trauma again, but that is deeply buried into your subcellular structure, and your subconscious mind is fully aware of that and protects you and actually guides you in everything you do on a daily basis. And through that particular guidance, you might experience resistance from yourself to certain events or people or things or whatever it may be that's coming in your life, in your social environment. Now, as that is the case, you're now having this constant pushback, which is kind of like an invisible hand that really kind of prevents you to go forward and really stops you to do certain things. Like you have an ambition to do a specific thing, but for some reason you're telling yourself, no, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. And, whatever it may be, and you just don't do it. And by not doing it, you're creating yourself enormous inner pressure that really builds a lot of negative energy, and that really then starts to kind of like, use a common term, winds you up. So everything that comes to you that doesn't really meet your specific approval at that particular time in the space that you're in, you will see that as some form of negative outcome. And that is something that sort of really affects you. And unless you start taking a specific action to kind of like prevent that from happening, that is going to grow in its volume. And that is what we call a buildup of negative energy. And that comes all the time. And the solution is very, very simple, and yet at the same time, it can be quite challenging as well. Because challenging in a sense that requires a discipline. Discipline meaning that you need to do it at least 3 times a day for a couple of minutes. You may say, okay, it's nothing, but it's 3 times a day. And are you willing to commit to something that you don't do regularly, 3 times a day? Because that can actually cause you negative feelings as well. But the good thing is, when you learn this particular technique, which I'm going to present to you in one of my next videos that I'm going to produce in the weeks to come. So the reason it is important to watch all these videos, so you actually know what is going to be actually presented and why do you need to basically practice that, is to release the negative energy. And why are you doing that? By releasing the negative energy, you're actually controlling the level of stress that you are going to experience. This is why this is important. And this is why the correlation of energy to your stressful response is extremely important to be aware of. And here I'm not talking about energy per se, because energy is maybe, it can be seen as a one thing, which in fact it is. But what differentiates energy is its specific frequency and amplitude level. And it goes infinitely. But what we're looking here is that our body vibrates at a subcellular structure at a specific frequential and amplitudinal frequencies. And anything that differs from that is seen as an obstacle, as a block. And this is what we are consciously experiencing as drag, lack of energy, and stuff like that. No, energy is always the same. But the question is, how much of the required energy flows within our bioenergy field at any moment in time? This is the key question we need to be asking ourselves. Because energy itself is a constant. It cannot go up and down. It's always the same, more or less. The only thing is when it's compressed, open, free-flowing, and in right frequencies and amplitudinal charge. This is the difference. And once you start to notice that, and you can only notice that through the application of exercises or the techniques that I'm teaching in my program, which is very important for you to start bringing from your subconscious to your conscious awareness what is going on from within yourself. Very important. And as you start becoming conscious about your inner activities that flow well beyond your conscious awareness, you are now mastering the levels of hidden world. The hidden world that actually controls your physical being and everything you're going to experience. For that reason, it is important to become master of your own being, which at the moment, most of us are sleepwalkers who have very little awareness of what is going on from within themselves. And yet we seem to know everything what's going outside, but when it comes to our understanding of what's going on inside, we have very little knowledge. And that is the huge weakness that majority of us has. And once you start mastering that particular part, which is offloading so-called negative energy, or in other words, energy that does not frequentially correspond to what you're requiring to function properly, and then recharge it back with the one that is your required level of energy or the specific frequencies that you're looking for, you're always going to feel dragged by heavy, sort of like in a not really good place. It doesn't mean you have low energy. No, you feel like you have low energy because the good energy is in basically very small supply. And this is this sort of feeling you're getting. Yes, in some way it's correct feeling, but it's not correct in the sense that you have no energy. No, you still have exactly the same level of energy, except that the difference is that the useful energy is in a shorter supply. So the issue here is to basically convert that non-useful energy into useful energy. And when you start doing that, you will then reframe the whole situation and your position, not only to be empowered mentally and physically, but you will then at the same time control the stress levels that you're able to sustain. Life is difficult. You will always experience stress. Always. That's given. But what is something that is of interest for you is to be able to feel all that, and then through the application of a certain methodology, which is daily exercising and basically relating to yourself, you will then start to change all that and then you will start to feel less of a burden by being stressed, because the stress will always come. You cannot stop that. But you will then be able to basically deal with it better, because you will release the negative energy that you'll be getting, which you will get anyway. And you will constantly, it's like a ship that's offloading the water all the time in the hull and keeping itself afloat. If the ship doesn't do that effectively, it will sink. So your job is to keep offloading that excessive level of negative energy, converting that into the positive energy that will give you that inner sort of recharge that you need to be able to function more congruently and being mentally and physically empowered. In next two videos, I'm going to talk about the different topics related to stress, but on the video after that, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 very good exercises for you to do on a daily basis that will actually help you to implement this particular strategy of converting ineffective energy into more effective bioenergy needed for you to recharge your body cells, and that way you are going to become more stress proof. This is it for this video, and I will be seeing you in the next video.